All right, continuing on our series on the most interesting teams in the NBA, voted by you. The reigning champion Milwaukee Bucks are bringing in Kane Pittman again. Kane, you've probably been the most frequent other Locked On host on Locked On Mavs, I think. Congrats.
Well, I always get lovely reviews as well. The Locked On Mavericks listeners are very kind to me, and part of me suspects maybe they voted the Bucks because they knew if they voted the Bucks,
They
they'd
would
be
get
back on the
Kane
show.
Pittman.
What do we
I
think?
get that. Yeah, I'm down for that.
Yeah,
That's understandable. It worked.
I'll tell
Hey,
myself. I'll tell
yeah,
myself that. Okay.
if that's what their goal was, they succeeded. So, well, I brought Kane Pittman on. We're going to talk about some Bucks. They're the reigning champion. They're going to hear that all year. Like it continues on through till another team wins in June. Pretty awesome feeling. How's the feeling of repeating, or is there even talk about that yet?
We haven't really got to it yet on Locked On Bucks, but I would imagine, and all teams are going through this. I know you're going to be at Mavericks Media Day. The Bucks announced today that their media day is going to be next Monday, and I would imagine it's going to be a question that comes up once or twice through the day. I would suspect, but it still feels a little bit weird. I can't believe the season is so close, and it's felt like such a quick off season, particularly when you throw in the Olympics. But then I think, imagine if you're a Lakers fan. Now, of course, I don't feel a single, I don't feel sorry for Lakers fans.
Never.
They had a month.
Man. Yeah, they got a whole extra. Yeah, and the teams that didn't make the playoffs or didn't even make the play in, they had even more time than that.
Right.
Wild. So the Milwaukee Bucks, I mean, the whole story this whole season is going to be probably more so focused on the Nets. We were even talking about this beforehand, that it just seems like everyone's going to be talking about the Nets. I mean, they're the title favorites right now on Bet Online and pretty much everywhere. Is there going to be some kind of like inferiority complex, or why is everybody talking about the Nets instead of the Bucks? Or are the Bucks used to this because they haven't been a team that people talked about all the time?
Yeah, I mean, no one really thought that they were winning the title until they won the title last year.
To be honest, we had you on one time during the season, and you were even like, "Nah, they won't win the title." Like,
yeah,
man.
It was such a weird thing to watch the Bucks and cover the Bucks last season, because I think throughout the season, my constant narrative was that this team is better than they were in the previous 2 years. But you've got Brooklyn and you've got other teams that are coming up and they're playing better basketball. So my concern was that even despite the fact I thought they were better prepared for the postseason, they would run into some of those teams. And I think that again is going to be what we're going to look at this year. You talk about if Brooklyn are healthy, and not just the big three, but some of the other additions they had, and Paul Millsap, my guy, Patty Mills.
Yeah.
They're going to be a really, really tough team. So I think for the Bucks, the thing that you're going to be looking at is, well, okay, how much did they learn from last year, and how much do they just not care anymore about being in a difficult situation or playing a good team? Because they spent most of the postseason with their backs up against the wall. So I'm really curious to see how they handle those types of situations through the year, and whether they care or they just say, we're the champs. Why do we care about this team that hasn't won a title in Brooklyn?
There is something to the once you win a title kind of deal, like you get some kind of confidence behind you, right? Like I think I talked about this with somebody, but those Lakers players like Kuzma and KCP and guys like that, once they won a title, it was like they were kind of on another level of like, oh yeah, we got this next level of confidence because we have that, NBA champion like Kyle Kuzma like written on my back kind of deal. He probably didn't even need the confidence. He already probably had it, but some of those other guys maybe needed it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether it has more of an impact on role players or it has more of an impact on Giannis, who's still only 26 years old. We think that he could potentially get better. We saw the free throws in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Does he all of a sudden now say, why am I nervous about free throws? I just went 17 for 19 to clinch a title. I don't care about this anymore. And he becomes a 75% free throw shooter. Who knows? Maybe Chris Middleton, who's been really questioned by Bucks fans more than anyone over the last few seasons. Is he good enough? Is he good enough number two? He had all those huge games. Maybe he comes back now and is even better again. So, yeah, I thought last year this was a team that was carrying a lot mentally, given what they'd been through the previous 2 seasons, best record in the league, fallen well short. So to get over that hump, I wonder what it does for them.
What's this team going to look like this season? It seems like, the normal cast of players is kind of back. Giannis, Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday's back. Pretty much everybody is going to be back. But what's the difference from last season to coming up into this season?
It's funny because I think they're deeper. I think they actually are deeper than they were last year. If you look, even just the simple way to look at it is the backup point guard situation. So last year they had DJ Augustine. Let's just say that didn't quite work out. Fortunately, they were able to flip him for PJ Tucker, which was a great move. But then they were running Jeff Teague. Jeff Teague played minutes in the NBA Finals. So now you have George Hill. He was obviously a great backup for this team going back a couple of years ago there. Dante DiVincenzo is going to come back into the fold. They've added Grayson Allen there as well. And then you have some wild cards with Semi Ojeleye and Rodney Hood. Who knows what we're going to get from? Maybe they're playable, maybe they're not. But I do think they have 11, 12 guys that you feel pretty comfortable with. Now, the ironic thing about that is last year we spoke about the fact that they didn't have the depth and they sold out on the depth to get a guy like a Drew Holiday in. And then ultimately, once you get to the NBA Finals, you're only playing 7, 8 guys anyway, so the depth doesn't really matter. So it might help them in the regular season. Does it really mean anything in the playoffs? Probably not. They got their stars back. That was the key point.
Yeah, adding those guys is interesting to me. Grayson Allen, solid shooter, should come in. We forget about Dante DiVincenzo. He was the guy. Like, if you had to, I think my next question was going to be, who's somebody that can improve on this team? You already talked about Giannis, how he can potentially even take another step. But I feel like Dante was the one guy that people were ready for him to be primed to jump into like a starting role and to take that by storm and even get better this season. What's his status for the start of the season? Should he be ready to go, or are we going to be waiting for him for a while? And do you expect him to like maybe take a leap or take the next step?
Yeah, there hasn't been any clear information about the injury. I suspect just from talking to some people that it's going to be a month or two into the season. I don't think he's going to be there on opening night, which again made sense why you trade for Grayson Allen. I suspect, and I might be wrong, maybe they'll go with Pat Connaughton, someone like that. I think that Grayson Allen will slide in and play that fifth starter role that Dante did play before he was injured. But DiVincenzo is interesting because if you talk to people about Dante, they say, well, he's kind of an erratic defender. He'll get you some steals. He'll make some plays. He's a streaky shooter. And I look at the numbers and I say, well, yes, he is streaky, but most shooters are. In his rookie season, he was at 26%. In his second season, he got up to 32%. Last season, he was up at 37.9%. So that's pretty nice progression over the years.
Streaking up is what we call it.
It's not a streak. It's a trend. It's a trend. It's trending up. So if he even stays around there, 38%, maybe gets it up to 40%, and still brings the defensive stuff he does, I mean, he's a really nice role player for this team. He's never going to be a star because the shots aren't going to be there, the usage isn't going to be there, but he's an X factor for the team.
How many years did Coach Budenholzer like earn or kind of like save himself basically by winning this title? Because there are times even in the playoffs, when was it when they were down to the Bucks? We were like, it's done, he's gone. Coach Bud is fired. We were like, maybe Giannis will demand a trade, like all this stuff. We were like saying as they were going to break down in the second round, but they win the title. And it seems like Coach Bud is like he's there for the long haul.
Yeah, they're losing game 2 in Brooklyn by 49 points. And
yes, yeah, that one.
Even Bucks fans were like, maybe we can just make Darvin Ham the coach for the rest of this series. Like, can we do that? And if you remember back, and your listeners will love this, Rick Carlisle was just on the market.
Oh, yeah.
So Bucks fans were freaking out. They're like, we need to like make this move right now. We need to get Rick Carlisle in. Let's get rid of Bud. And then look at the guy now. He said on Zach Lowe's podcast he wanted a 20-year extension. You could probably give it to him. You could probably give it to him. He won a title. He's got a job for life, whether it's with the Bucks or another NBA team. As you guys know, with Rick, once you're an NBA championship coach, you can coach for as long as you want.
Yeah, until the star player doesn't really care for you anymore. Basically, you can do that. Yeah, I think even you can go back to our emergency pod after Rick left. We were like, oh, he's going to the Milwaukee job. Like that seemed to be, right in step with what he was doing. We thought for sure that he's like, oh, he knows that job is going to be open. Why else would he leave the situation with Luka to go somewhere else? And instead, he's like, well, I'll just go back to Indiana. Like, all right, Rick.
well, look, I mean, no offense to Malcolm Brogdon, but if the Bucks job
or Sabonis,
Sabonis, old friend Malcolm Brogdon, we should say. But if you had the choice between Giannis or Brogdon, you're probably going to Milwaukee.
Unless you're like, hey, I could go to this team and there'd be less expectations on me. I don't have to go. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Why should people watch the Bucks? What's going to be interesting about them in the regular season? Are they going to try to take the league by storm again like they did a couple years ago and had the best record, or what? Or are we going to see them kind of coast through this and try to just get to the playoffs?
this is the big storyline for us, and that's why I'm so fascinated about the regular season, because we were trying to, as we all do at the network, we look at the lines at betonline.ag, and we're like, okay, well, you like that? You like that? So we're like, well, how are the Bucks going to be over? And I think it was 54.5 or 55.5, somewhere around there. And I just keep coming back to last season where Giannis sat there for the whole season and he's like, well, I mean, we lose games. What does it matter? It's fine. I'm having fun. This is great. Playing basketball. It doesn't matter. And I was like, yeah, this guy's just trying to deflect right now. This team has to be feeling the pressure. Ultimately, they won. So I can't see them changing the method. I don't think that they're going to go out and try and win 70 games. I think that they will rest guys, particularly Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton, who have just come off an Olympic campaign, literally went from the parade to the plane to fly to Tokyo and then played 24 hours later. So it might not be as exciting as what a 70 win pace chase would be like it was in 2020. But I just think, I mean, if you look at this team again, like I said, the confidence they might get from that, and it's going to be fun to see what Giannis can do. I mean, this guy, year over year, somehow continually adds something, gets better. So if that's not good enough reason to watch the Bucks, I don't know, man. I don't know.
And I think there's going to be a real competitiveness between them and the Nets. I think they'll look at all the attention the Nets will get and all the people picking the Nets and be like, we can beat them. And maybe that will motivate them during the regular season. It'll be interesting to watch, interesting to listen to. Go check out Locked On Bucks. And follow Kane Pittman on Twitter or wherever you can find him. Just follow him around. I don't know. Thanks, Kane.
Yeah, and I'll be back on this show probably in a couple of weeks, so I'll speak to you then.